Welcome to Friday. It's the 9th day of February, 2024. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism, reminding you that in Thermopolis, you can always find yourself in hot water to swim, soak, or slide. Go to thermopolis.com. Well, we've got a small storm system that is going to bring some winter weather to some, not all, but some. We're going to have a small area of moderate to heavy snow in a very tight area of southeastern Wyoming, parts of western Nebraska, parts of northern and eastern Colorado. Also, some snows will spread into parts of New Mexico and the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles and parts of southwest Kansas late tonight and tomorrow, as what's left of the California storm is going to come through the last big piece. We're also going to see some northwest winds aloft, which is a good way to make it snow in the northern mountains of Wyoming, southern Montana, a little bit into the Black Hills. So there's still going to be some mountain snow shower activity aside from this small area where it's going to snow a bit more. Colder winds aloft mean colder temperatures as well. But once we get into Sunday and early next week, we'll kind of hit a stretch where it'll be colder, but we have a little bit of a break. Then it's mid to late next week when the weather pattern begins to change again. And then further down the road by next weekend and beyond, the weather gets pretty active again across the west. Here's a good shot out of Spearfish of some low-hanging clouds up against the Black Hills. Notice the lack of snow there in the Black Hills. Even with last week's storm, it was mostly rain, even some of the higher hills. But they'll get a little bit white with this next front coming on through. The satellite imagery this morning, still a bit chaotic. A good feed of subtropical moisture coming up across the south. We're going to talk about this area of cloudiness here in a minute. And then you can see another area of cloudiness up here. We've got a low here, and these two are going to kind of merge and come together. But you can see it's definitely a more of a fragmented pattern than what we've seen lately. Now let's put this satellite into loop. See this counterclockwise rotation of clouds right here in southwest Colorado? We've got an upper level low, and you notice these clouds here that are expanding and increasing to the north. As more energy comes in out of the trough into this low here, this area of cloudiness is going to expand to include areas like this later this afternoon and tonight, as the low will begin to grow and colder air will come in from the northwest. And we have a host of winter weather advisories for winter weather conditions basically along that path of the two lows. Across northern Wyoming, then across Montana, the panhandle of Idaho, part of Oregon and Washington there. You can see into the north central parts of Wyoming, that winter weather in the northwest flow, and more snow for the Wasatch, northeast Nevada. This is that area right here where there's going to be a small area, and I mean it's not going to be big, but a small area where there's going to be bands of heavier snow tonight and into early tomorrow. Also, could be a little bit wintry down there for well. So we're going to have some travel concerns still here over the next 24 to 36 hours. This is by tomorrow morning. You can see that low is still by the Four Corners area. Northwest winds aloft, dragging in some colder air. Counterclockwise conditions bring upslope around that low. So there's going to be a convergence of air masses right here. And hence, there you see it. Now, it's going to depend on exactly where this area is going to be. It could be a little east, it could be a little west, it could be a little north, could be a little bit south, but it's this particular area right here where there's going to end up being a period of moderate to maybe briefly periods of heavy snow late today, tonight, into Saturday. The northwest flow will bring snow here into the Bighorns, north central and northwestern Wyoming, western areas of Montana, and you can still see Colorado's southwest mountains and Arizona are going to get wet. And look at this, areas of rain and snow will be breaking out across the southern plains there. And there you can see the snowfall forecast. Again, the amounts may vary, the concentration of the heavier snow may vary, but generally speaking, it's this area here in the I-25 corridor and points east we need to watch. Then you can see those other areas of snow. Temperature-wise, pretty chilly. Temperatures across the Rockies and the Great Basin in that northwest flow will be colder, a little bit warmer out on into the plains, but certainly going to be a chilly weekend across the region. As we go into the longer term, this is by the middle of next week. As we mentioned yesterday, high pressure will build along the west coast. This will allow colder air in Canada to come south. However, there are two different scenarios. One scenario is around Valentine's Day into Thursday and Friday of next week, colder air pours in and along the Continental Divide. But you see these two low pressure systems right here? They may actually merge into one, cutting basically the neck off the high. If this high's neck gets cut off, then the penetration of the colder air will be more to the east than it will be to the south. And that will play a large role in two things: how cold it gets mid to late next week and how much more snowfall is in our future. If the neck doesn't get cut off, it's going to be colder and more snowy. If the neck gets cut off, it won't be as cold, and the direction of the heavier precipitation will be directed more into this area here. But some question marks certainly are on the table mid to late next week, but that's when we could expect the next pattern change. It's all going to be what happens with this high and these two areas of low pressure. Taking a look at the snowpack change, if we were just to take a look at the past week or so, a little bit more than a week, this was the snowpack snow water equivalent percent of average as of January 30th. As of yesterday, here it is. What I want you to look at is Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, but also parts of Idaho and southwestern areas of Wyoming. If you look at the change, we have a lot of yellows and oranges going to blue. Look at Utah. All of a sudden, the snowpack in Utah, most of Nevada, look at Arizona and New Mexico. Anywhere you see green or blue, your snowpacks are in good shape. And so we can see that it's generally this area right here that has benefited the most. Now, you still see snowpacks below average here in the Sierra Nevada, but these areas have seen a 20% or more increase, and there's more coming. So we'll continue to see these numbers grow here in the coming weeks. But there's been a really big, significant boost in this area here, and we'll get a little bit more this weekend. We continue to be concerned about the northern Rockies, the northern areas where the bias of the El Nino pattern is going to be more south, more along I-80 and point south. And that's exactly what's happening right now. But in the upper Colorado Basin, all of the waters that go down into Lake Mead and Lake Powell and all of those things, the snowpacks have really, really grown and will likely continue to do so. We need the help to be up more into the northern areas. Now, I want to show you the latest sea surface temperature forecast. This came out early this week. This is from the European Center. What we want to watch is this area here. Notice that in the first frame, which is February, it's orange, El Nino. But notice over time, ending in July, this blue patch. So we talked in earlier podcasts that this El Nino was not going to be able to last very long, basically be a one-hit wonder, and that's exactly what's going to happen. But we generally stay in that orangish February into March. As we get into April, May, and June, and especially by June and July, it's not La Nina yet, but it goes to a neutral state. So we're going to go from El Nino to neutral here in the coming months, and this was just posted yesterday. The probabilities of El Nino remain very strong through March, April, and May. Then look at that. Boom, off a cliff. I mean, just fall off a cliff. And then the probabilities of the colder La Nina type waters in the Pacific go up quite a bit by mid to late summer. One good thing about this is I think we're going to keep El Nino status here for a little bit longer, long enough to kind of keep the stormy weather in the west going into March and probably into April and May before we start to see this pattern change. It doesn't look like it's going to be a La Nina till late summer or fall, but be more of that neutral status. Something we'll continue to keep an eye on, but it's a foregone conclusion that this El Nino is not going to last too much longer. But it's in place right now and will still impact our weather for a bit more. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.